Howling through the skies, the Stormfang Gunship rains death down upon the enemies of the Space Wolves. Today, we're talking about this unit on Let's Talk Tactics.
Anvil of War! Let's talk tactics!
So today we're talking about the Stormfang Gunship on Let's Talk Tactics. It is a flyer choice for the Space Wolf Army. Is it an auto-include? No. It's pretty points heavy. It comes in at quite a few points, especially when you tool it the way that I prefer to tool it, which is lots and lots of heavy damage dealing weapons. But I think it's probably one of the most efficient ways to reach out and punch a hole in something big in the enemy's army. And it can move quickly across the tabletop, being a flyer that it is. It has some troop capacity, and it's also just a heavy damage dealing unit. Like I said, you know, when you tool it out properly, like we have here in front of me, you have a lot of damage, a lot of wounds that you can get through on something big in your opponent's army. That being said, there's some other ways that you can utilize using it in your force. It not being necessarily an auto-include doesn't mean that it doesn't have a strong place in a Space Wolf list. They're durable as all hell. So we're going to talk quickly about the statistics of this guy. So having a movement of 20 inches to 50 inches, I mean, that comes kind of standard with a lot of flyers. So 20 to 50 inches, it also has the ability to switch over into hover mode. So you have the ability to not have to zoom around the tabletop. If you want it to sit still for one turn, or you're worried about positioning, or you want it to be in its already existing position, that's the way you're going to do it. Switch it into hover mode. Then it just gains a flat movement value of 20 inches. So don't have to worry about that minimum move. Next, we're going to talk about its weapon skill, 6+. Then we're going to be using this guy for combat. If he gets into combat, look out, you don't want that to happen. Ballistic skill, it's degrading, so depending on how many wounds he has, you're looking at a ballistic skill of 3+ base, so he's a Space Marine. It's a Space Marine unit, so 3+ ballistic skill base. And then as he degrades, goes to 4+, and then 5+. You want this guy to punch a hole quick, and then try to get his points value back as quick as possible, and then he's most likely going to blow up. But he's also a really good distraction, just in the sense that a lot of the units in the Space Wolf army are very melee-centric, especially with the new rules that just came out for the Space Marines, and them getting that +1 attack on the charge, or if they're charged, or if they heroically intervened. Marines just got a lot more potent in close combat, so an all-space combat Space Wolf army needs something that's going to jump out and draw a little bit of firepower away from your combat units, and this is the guy that's going to do it. So if you get one turn, solid turn of shooting out of him, and then he draws half of your opponent's firepower for the next turn, you're doing something right. That being said, he does have a strength of 8 and a toughness of 7. So toughness 7 on this, you know, on any model is good, but on a flyer it's great. He has 14 wounds, so lots and lots of wounds to absorb. 3 attack space, again, not really relevant because you don't want him to be in combat. Leadership of 8 and a save of 3+. So where it comes down to efficiency with this guy, I think go big or go home for equipment wise. He has a few different options. First of all, he comes with the base Frostwolf Destructor. Frostwolf Destructor is, it's got 2 different shooting variants. So one is heavy 3d3, both are range 24 inches, but one is heavy 3d3, strength 6, AP -2, 2 damage flat. The other one is heavy 3 shots, strength 8, AP -4, and d6 damage flat. Now, that being said, if a model suffers an unsaved wound from this weapon, but is not slain, you roll a d6. On a roll of 6, it does a mortal wound in addition to the damage. So it's just a nice little toss-in special rule. I mean, realistically, with the way that I like to load these guys out, I'm typically always firing that heavy 3 shots, but if you don't have any big targets and you want to try to take out some infantry, then 3d3, strength 6, AP -2, 2 damage flat shots could also help. It's kind of situational. It depends on the target. If you're shooting something high toughness, you want to go for those strong 3 shots. If you're firing against something with lower toughness, you want to fire those strength 6 shots and have more of them. So really, again, situational. So next we're going to talk about his other weapons. So now he can come with the Storm Strike missile launchers, and he comes with 2 of those. Comes standard with 2 of them. 72-inch range weapons. They're strength 8, and they're AP -3 and 3 damage flat. So 2 shots, strength 8, AP -3, 3 damage flat. That's awesome. It's good. They're kind of geared towards being a hard-hitting weapon. Now that being said, I think the las cannons are still my preferred option, just because that strength 9 makes you able to reach out and hurt toughness 8 stuff more reliably. So it's going to be a little bit more effective against knights and stuff like that. You need a couple las cannons in your army, I think, with Space Wolves. The Longfangs do it really, really well with the stratagems that they can use to deal damage, but I think a couple extra las cannons on this guy, and the way that I like to use them if I get the opportunity, the las cannons are more effective. And one unique weapon that he does have is the Skyhammer missile launcher, and it's heavy 3, strength 7, AP -1, D3 damage, and it's +1 to hit against flyers, -1 to hit against all other targets. So yeah, I mean, it's good. It could be replaced with the multi-meltas, and I think the multi-meltas are a better option. It also can take heavy bolters instead. Heavy bolters are good if you're trying to dish out a lot of DACA and you want something that's a little bit cheaper. It's a lot cheaper actually, just to take the heavy bolters. But I think the multi-meltas are a preferred option for me because they synergize well with the 3 shots on the Frostwolf Destructor, and then also the 2 las cannon shots. So that being said, it's got some basic special rules that it comes with. It's got the crash and burn special rule that's standard for flyers. It's got hover jet, like I mentioned before, with the movement. It has the ability to change to hover mode. It's got power of the machine spirit. So Deathwatch players are really, really jealous of this, but has the ability to move and shoot heavy weapons without any penalties. So being able to jump 50 inches across the table and not have any penalty from it is pretty awesome. It also has the airborne special rule, so again, it can lose that if it goes into hover, but it is airborne, so it can't be attacked unless the target has fly in combat and melee. It's got hard to hit, so -1 to hit, standard for flyers, and supersonic. So basically pivoting the model, etc. I mean, it's a generic flyer in those respects. It has all those special rules that are associated with it. So let's get into the meat and potatoes and talk about where you're going to be using this guy and what stratagems you're going to want to use on him. So he has a troop capacity of 6 models. I prefer to put a basic squad of Grey Hunters in it, just a min squad of 5 Grey Hunters. I'll throw them in and basically deploy this guy on the table and then have them inside, and then turn 1 they jump out onto an objective. If I don't go first, it protects them from shooting, and it's just a good way to snag an objective right off the hop. So with this guy, you're going to be watching your opponent's moves and your opponent's deployment. A lot of people don't think about, a lot of opponents don't think about leaving gaps in their battle line the size of a flyer base. They're more specifically looking at that 9-inch bubble to negate for deep striking or anything like that. So that being said, if they leave the space big enough for a flyer base, you're going to want to take that opportunity and fly this guy in and try to get his positioning so that an enemy character is the closest model. If that's an oversight in your opponent's deployment, or if at the end of the movement phase, turn 1, they leave something open like that, exploit it. Jump this guy across the table, hit that little spot that's open on the table, and yeah, just basically position it so that the base is the closest to that enemy character, and hit it with 4 melta guns, 2 las cannons, and 3 strength 8 shots from the Frostwolf Destructor, and watch as your opponent's battle plan goes down the toilet as they lose their characters. Or I mean, we're living in the age of Hero Hammer right now. In 8th edition, characters are so prominent. If you have the ability to take out a key part of your opponent's army and a character right off the hop with something like this, it's good. I mean, if you can get all of those shots in on Gilliman or you know, some big opposing character in your enemy's army that's, you know, the center of their entire army synergy, then why not jump across the table and take it out? When we're talking about his weapons, like I said, that's why I like to tool him out the way I do. I do like to take the quad melta guns or multi-meltas and the 2 las cannons, because it's just high damage weapons, D6 damage per shot. You know, with the meltas and his range and the ability to jump across the table, it's really easy to get within 12 inches of this guy, and have the melta guns now doing 2d6 damage, take the highest. Again, when those melta shots do go through, if they fail their invulnerable saves, you're going to make them pay for it. So also, alternatively, you're going to send this guy across the table. If the opponent doesn't have an opening, you can send this guy across the table and hunt down big targets. Like I said, Imperial Knights, I mean, if you get past their invulnerable saves, you're going to be doing heavy damage to them. And then also, you know, if there's transports or something that you're worried about, with so many weapons, so many high strength weapons, if you're going against something where there's a whole bunch of transports coming across the table and they don't have the greatest invulnerable saves, you can jump this guy into a position where you can target 2 different transports and slow the enemy down heavily with this model. So again, it's a heavy points value, so you're gonna have to think about that. 2 stratagems to use on this guy. There's only really 2, I would say, that are really effective, and 1 that's really situational. But 1 is the keen senses, so the ability to give them no modifiers to hit, so they're not affected by any modifiers when shooting at a target. I mean, it's 1 command point. You don't have to worry about Eldari or, you know, Raven Guard or anything like that, where you have them stacking minuses to hit, making it hard for your guy to get those high damage shots through. 1 command point, get rid of that. Pretty awesome. The next one would be the Armour of Contempt. Now, if you're going to be getting hit by a lot of psychic abilities, if you're worried that you're standing in the middle of a whole bunch of psychers like demons or something, and you're worried that you're going to be taking smites left, right, and center, you pop Armour of Contempt. What it does is it gives you a 5+ invulnerable save, or sorry, 5+ feel no pain against all mortal wounds. So the first mortal wound suffered, you pop it once you've received a mortal wound, and then it gives you one for that, and then all mortal wounds afterwards. So yeah, it's just a great little stratagem, and it's situational, but it could help. In the event that you have a Rune Priest nearby, you could pop Cloaked by the Storm. I mean, it's 3 command points. I think it's really, really hefty. I don't think it's that great, but if he happens to be nearby, and it's like turn 1, and you successfully manifest the psychic power on your Rune Priest, you spend 3 command points, and he gives everything within 6 inches a -1 to hit aura. Or sorry, it gives him a -1 to hit aura for all of your friendly units within 6 inches. So him being -2 to hit at that point right off the hop, if your opponent goes first, it's kind of effective. So it could help out. As I said, I like to take a 5-man Grey Hunter squad just as a small toss-in squad. There are other options. Like I said, he's a good distraction. So if you wanted to take a squad of let's say that you decided that you wanted to take Wolfguard, a 5-man Wolfguard squad with 1 character, and you wanted to throw them deep into the enemy lines. If you wanted to find that spot, throw this guy in. When he explodes, the Wolfguard come out. Hopefully you don't lose a model. And then you have a Wolfguard squad on the table right in the thick of the enemy. It's possible. it forces the opponent to target these guys more, but also because he's so points heavy and because Wolfguard themselves, if they're tooled out with all the combat weapons, I mean, you're going to want some storm shields or something in the mix with those guys. So if they're tooled out properly, then that's just adding to the points value of this unit. So I think he's a good enough distraction as is, and if you are going to throw something in it, a cheap 5-man squad of Grey Hunters is probably my preference. But if you guys have other opinions or other ways of running this model on the tabletop, please let us know in the comments below. Really interested to know how everybody else is running their Space Wolf armies. They're in a spot right now. I'm not going to say that they're in a really bad spot, but they're not in a good spot. And with the new Space Marine rules that were just released recently, they're a little bit more viable, and the combat prowess of them just went up a little bit. So their damage output went up, but I still think the community kind of working together and talking about all of the different ways that they like to run these models really helps. So please let us know. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you hit subscribe. Later, guys.
Sponsored by...
If you guys are enjoying our content and you want to see more content created by us, please support the channel by clicking the subscribe button. The Stormfang Gunship rains death down upon the foes of the Empire. Dun 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 dun. Yay!